The Galactic Council chamber floated in the void between stars, a massive station where representatives from 3,000 civilizations gathered to debate matters of universal importance. Today's session focused on the newest species to achieve faster-than-light travel, humanity. Ambassador Thexisol of the Vrakan Empire studied the holographic display before him with his 6 compound eyes. The data stream showed everything the galaxy had learned about humans over the past 20 cycles of observation. Agriculture, cities, art, medicine, philosophy. Nothing remarkable. Nothing threatening. The preliminary classification is clear, announced High Arbiter Meln, her crystalline form refracting the chamber's ambient light into rainbow patterns. Humanity scores a Category 7 on the Benign scale. They possess minimal aggressive tendencies, favor diplomatic solutions, and show remarkable compassion even toward other species on their homeworld. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the assembled delegates. Category 7 was assigned to species that posed virtually no threat to galactic stability. Such civilizations typically became trading partners, cultural contributors, or scientific collaborators. They were welcomed but rarely respected. Thexisol clicked his mandibles thoughtfully. His empire had once been classified as Category 7 when they first joined the galactic community. That was before they demonstrated their true nature, before they claimed 17 star systems through calculated aggression and economic warfare. The Vrakan had learned that benign was simply another word for underestimated. I propose immediate integration protocols, continued High Arbiter Meln. Standard trade agreements, cultural exchange programs, and observer status in council proceedings. Seconded, came multiple voices across the chamber. Thexisol remained silent, but his mind calculated possibilities. A benign species with actual spacefaring capability represented opportunity. The humans had 3 colonized worlds beyond their homeworld called Earth. Nothing impressive compared to empires spanning hundreds of systems, but enough to be interesting. The vote passed unanimously. Humanity would be welcomed into the galactic community as a minor harmless civilization. First contact protocols would begin immediately. 3 months later, Ambassador Sarah Chen stood in that same council chamber, the first human to do so. She was a middle-aged woman with sharp eyes and silver threading through her black hair. The gravity generators accommodated her species' requirements, though she noticed they were set slightly lower than Earth standard. A subtle reminder of her civilization's junior status. Welcome, Ambassador Chen. High Arbiter Melon's translated voice chimed like wind through crystal. We hope this marks the beginning of a long and peaceful relationship between humanity and the galactic community. Sarah smiled warmly. Thank you, High Arbiter. We're honored to be here and eager to learn from civilizations far older than our own. The perfect response for a Category 7 species. Humble, grateful, unthreatening. Over the following weeks, Sarah attended session after session, learning the complex web of alliances, trade agreements, and territorial boundaries that governed galactic civilization. She noted which species held true power, and which merely pretended to matter. She observed how the Vrakan Empire dominated discussions about resource rights, how the Kelshani Collective controlled the most profitable trade routes, and how smaller civilizations were politely ignored unless they offered something valuable. Humanity, she quickly realized, was expected to offer very little and receive even less in return. The trade agreements proposed to Earth were insultingly one-sided. Humans would provide rare Earth elements at fixed prices, while paying premium rates for basic galactic technology. Cultural exchange meant other species could establish research outposts on human worlds, but humans would require special permits to visit most alien planets. Even the offer of advanced knowledge came with restrictions that would take generations to bypass. Sarah said nothing. She smiled, thanked the Council for their generosity, and forwarded every document back to Earth for analysis. It was during a recess between sessions that Thexisol approached her. The Vrakan ambassador moved with the unsettling grace of a predatory insect, his segmented body clicking softly with each step. Ambassador Chen, I trust you are finding our proceedings educational? Sarah turned, maintaining her pleasant expression. Very much so, Ambassador Thexisol. The Council's organization is remarkably efficient. Indeed. His translator converted his chittering speech into flat, emotionless words. I have been reviewing the data on your species' colonial holdings. 3 worlds beyond Earth, if our information is correct. That's correct. Mars, Europa, and Proxima Centauri b. Modest colonies, but we're proud of them. Modest indeed. Thexasol's mandibles clicked in what might have been amusement. The Vrakon Empire has been expanding our own holdings recently. We find ourselves in need of stepping stones, you might say. Worlds positioned strategically for further expansion. Sarah's expression didn't change, but her mind sharpened to focus. That sounds ambitious. Your colony on Proxima Centauri b occupies an interesting location. It sits along a corridor that would greatly facilitate Vrakon trade routes. We would be willing to compensate Earth for transferring sovereignty of that world to our empire. There it was. The first test. Sarah had been expecting something like this, but the directness surprised her. The Vrakon weren't even pretending to couch it in diplomatic language. That's quite an offer, Sarah said carefully. What sort of compensation did you have in mind? Thexasol projected a holographic contract into the space between them. Sarah scanned it quickly. The Vrakon offered technology licenses, trade credits, and access to certain commercial databases. On the surface, it looked generous. But she noticed the restrictions buried in the subsidiary clauses. The technology licenses would be limited to obsolete systems. The trade credits could only be used with Vrakon-approved vendors at Vrakon-approved rates. The databases would provide information humanity could probably discover on its own within a few decades. In exchange, humanity would surrender a terraformed world that represented 20 years of investment and was home to 80,000 colonists. This requires consultation with my government. Of course, Sarah said, her voice betraying nothing. Naturally. Take your time, Ambassador. Thexasol's translator somehow conveyed satisfaction. Though I should mention that the Vrakon Empire has been considering this corridor for some time. With or without Earth's cooperation, our expansion will proceed. It would be unfortunate if humanity found itself opposing a civilization far more established and powerful. There it was again, not even veiled, a threat wrapped in diplomatic courtesy. Sarah met his compound gaze steadily. I'll convey your offer to Earth immediately. We're new to galactic politics, but we do understand the importance of making informed decisions. Wise words from a benign species. Thexasol clicked his mandibles and walked away. Sarah returned to her quarters and composed a detailed report for the Secretary General. She included every word of the conversation, every nuance of threat, and every insulting clause in the proposed contract. Then she added a single line of recommendation. It's time to show them what benign really means. The emergency session of Earth Security Council convened within hours of Ambassador Chen's report. Holographic projections of world leaders filled the chamber in Geneva, their faces reflecting various degrees of anger and concern. Secretary General Marcus Webb projected the Vrakon contract onto the main display. They're not even pretending this is negotiation. This is extortion dressed up as diplomacy. The audacity is remarkable, added Director Kamala Singh of the Strategic Defense Initiative. They've observed us for 20 years, classified us as harmless, and now they're testing to see if we'll simply hand over our territory when pushed. Can we even refuse? Asked Premier Zhou of the Asian Coalition. We're one species among thousands. We have 3 colony worlds. The Vrakon Empire has over 400. Militarily, we're not even comparable. Which is exactly what they're counting on, Marcus replied. They see us as children who'll surrender our toys when the adults demand them. Ambassador Chen, attending via quantum link from the council station, spoke up. I've spent 3 months observing how the galaxy operates. The strong take what they want from the weak. Might doesn't just make right here, it makes law. Species that can't defend their interests are absorbed, exploited, or ignored. So we're supposed to what? Go to war with an empire that could glass our entire solar system? Premier Zhou's frustration was evident. No, Chen said quietly. We're supposed to make them realize that taking human territory costs more than it's worth. Director Singh leaned forward with interest. Explain. The Vrakon think we're benign. They've looked at our history and seen peace treaties, humanitarian aid, the United Earth government formed without a global war. They've missed the context entirely. They don't understand why we became peaceful. Marcus nodded slowly, beginning to understand. Because we learned what we're capable of. Exactly. We didn't choose peace because we're weak. We chose it because we know what happens when humans stop being peaceful. The galaxy looked at our museums and thought we were poets. They didn't look at what we put in those museums to remember. The chamber fell silent as the implication settled over the assembled leaders. You're proposing we demonstrate our actual capability, Director Singh said, without firing a single shot if possible. The Vrakhan want Proxima Centauri b because it's strategically located, Chen explained. But strategy works both ways. I need authorization to make a counteroffer. 6 hours later, Ambassador Chen requested a private meeting with Thexazol. The Vrakhan ambassador agreed, clearly expecting Earth's capitulation. They met in a neutral observation lounge overlooking the nebula that housed the council station. Thexazol arrived with 2 aides, a subtle power play. Chen came alone. Ambassador Chen, I trust Earth has considered our generous offer. Sarah smiled pleasantly. We have indeed. However, we'd like to propose a counteroffer. Thexazol's mandibles clicked with what his species considered amusement. Counteroffer? You do understand the nature of our respective positions? Completely. Which is why I think you'll find our proposal interesting. Sarah projected her own holographic document. Earth acknowledges the strategic value of Proxima Centauri b. Rather than sell sovereignty, we propose a trade. A trade? Thexazol's translated tone suggested skepticism. You give us one of your colony worlds. In exchange, we give you Proxima Centauri b planet for planet. That seems fair. The observation lounge fell absolutely silent. Thexazol's aides made clicking sounds that the translator interpreted as shocked chittering. You're joking, Thexazol finally said. You want us to trade an established Vrakhan colony for your minor outpost? Why not? You said Proxima Centauri b has strategic value. Surely your colonies have value too. We're simply proposing an equivalent exchange. The Vrakhan Empire does not surrender territory to species barely capable of interstellar flight. Sarah's pleasant expression never wavered. Then I suppose the Vrakhan Empire doesn't actually need Proxima Centauri b as much as you suggested. We'll retain sovereignty. I hope your alternative trade routes work out. She turned to leave. Wait. Thexazol's voice carried a dangerous edge. You are making a serious mistake, Ambassador. The Vrakhan Empire has ways of acquiring what we need. Sarah turned back slowly. Are you threatening to take our colony by force, Ambassador? I am stating reality. Our fleet could occupy Proxima Centauri b within a standard month. Your defensive capabilities are minimal. That's true, Sarah agreed. We could probably only delay you by a few weeks with our current fleet. But Ambassador, has the Vrakhan Empire considered what happens after those few weeks? After you would be defeated. We would occupy the territory. This is standard procedure. Sarah's smile took on a different quality, not pleasant anymore, knowing. Standard procedure for species that surrender after defeat. But humans have this inconvenient habit of not recognizing when they've lost. She projected new data into the holographic space. Historical records, battles, guerrilla wars, resistance movements. Centuries of human conflict distilled into stark numbers. This is Earth's 20th century, she explained. We fought 2 global wars. The second one ended with weapons that could destroy entire cities in seconds. We've had that capability for over 200 years now. We chose not to use them again. Do you know why? Thexazol studied the data, his mandibles still. Because they were too destructive. Because they worked too well. Ambassador, the Vrakhan can absolutely conquer Proxima Centauri b. Your fleet will win every military engagement. You'll occupy every settlement. And then you'll discover what occupation actually means when humans are involved. Sarah highlighted specific records, resistance movements that lasted decades, occupied populations that made governance impossible, the staggering cost of holding territory against people who refuse to stay conquered. We have 80,000 colonists on Proxima Centauri b, people who built that world with their own hands. You think they'll peacefully accept Vrakhan rule? They won't fight fairly. They won't wear uniforms. They'll sabotage your facilities, attack your supply lines, and make every day of occupation cost you resources and lives. And the longer you hold that world, the more the rest of humanity will treat the Vrakhan Empire as an enemy. She zoomed the projection to show Earth's current industrial capacity. We have a homeworld with 11 billion people. We have manufacturing systems you haven't bothered to study because you dismissed us as benign. If you make us your enemy, we'll spend the next century building weapons instead of art. We'll turn every human colony into a fortress. We'll develop countermeasures for every Vrakhan system. And yes, you'll win most battles. But Ambassador, Can your empire afford a forever war with a species that will never forgive and never forget? The observation lounge's ambient lighting seemed to dim as Sarah's words settled. This is madness, Thexel said quietly. You would sacrifice yourselves rather than accept the reality of galactic power dynamics? Not sacrifice, resist, there's a difference. And here's what the Vrakon Empire has failed to understand. Humans aren't benign because we're weak. We're benign because we chose peace after learning exactly how terrible war can be. But if you force us to choose war again, we're very, very good at it. Sarah closed the projection. So here's my counteroffer again, Ambassador. You can trade us one of your fringe colonies for Proxima Centauri B, conduct peaceful commerce with humanity, and profit from our scientific and cultural contributions. Or you can try to take our world by force and discover that humans make very expensive enemies. Your choice. She walked out of the observation lounge without waiting for an answer. Thexazol stood frozen, processing everything he'd just witnessed. The benign species wasn't benign at all. They were simply dormant, and he'd nearly awakened something that the galaxy was utterly unprepared to handle. The Kelshani Trade Collective monitored every communication in council space as part of their business model. Information was profit, and the Kelshani had been profiting from information for over 6,000 years. So when Ambassador Chen's meeting with Thexazol triggered unusual data patterns, the collective's analysts noticed immediately. Matriarch Velnus reviewed the intercepted conversation in her private chambers aboard the collective's flagship. Her species resembled bipedal dolphins, and her translated laughter echoed like sonar pings through water. Brilliant, she chirped. Absolutely brilliant. The little mammals have teeth after all. Her second-in-command, a younger male named Paresh, bobbed his head skeptically. The Vrakon won't accept such humiliation. They'll push forward with occupation regardless of the warnings. Perhaps, but I don't think so. Velnus replayed the section where Sarah displayed human warfare statistics. Look at these numbers. These aren't threats, they're historical facts. And Thexazol is many things, but he's not stupid. He's calculating the cost-benefit analysis right now. So what do? Velnus's eyes gleamed with commercial interest. We ensure that every species in the council knows exactly what happened in that meeting. Not as a warning. As marketing. Humans just demonstrated they're not Category 7 at all. They're something much more interesting. Within 24 hours, every major civilization had received anonymous data packages containing the full conversation. The Kelshani didn't mention their source. They didn't need to. The information sold itself. Reactions varied. The peaceful species were horrified at humanity's willingness to embrace prolonged conflict. The aggressive species were intrigued by this supposedly benign race that promised asymmetric warfare and guerrilla tactics. The pragmatic species began recalculating all their assumptions about human trade value. High Arbiter Mellon called an emergency council session. The chamber filled with representatives, all of them chattering about the same topic. Ambassador Chen sat in humanity's designated position, maintaining the same pleasant expression she always wore. Thexazol sat in the Vrakon section, noticeably silent. Order, Mellon's crystalline voice cut through the noise. This session addresses the matter of Earth's territorial dispute with the Vrakon Empire. Ambassador Thexazol, would you care to present your position? Thexazol rose slowly. His mandibles clicked in a pattern that translated as diplomatic composure, though everyone present could sense his agitation. The Vrakon Empire withdraws. Its request for Proxima Centauri B, we have determined that alternative trade routes are sufficient for our needs, and murmurs filled the chamber. Species didn't withdraw claims, not without gaining something in return. This was unprecedented. Ambassador Chen, Mellon turned her attention to Sarah. Does Earth accept this resolution? Earth is satisfied with maintaining sovereignty over all our current territories, Sarah replied simply. We look forward to peaceful trade with the Vrakon Empire and all council members. This matter is concluded then. Mellon's tone suggested relief, but her next words carried weight. However, this situation has revealed a classification error. Earth's Category 7 status was based on incomplete data. The Council's Xenopsychology Division will conduct a comprehensive review of humanity's behavioral patterns and threat assessment. Sarah's expression flickered with concern for just a moment. High Arbiter, Earth has no desire for conflict with any species. Our response to the Vrakon claim was purely defensive in nature, noted Ambassador. Nevertheless, the review will proceed. Species classifications exist for the safety and stability of all civilizations. We must ensure accuracy. The session adjourned, but Sarah found herself immediately surrounded by other ambassadors. Some wanted to express support. Others wanted to probe for weaknesses. A few seemed genuinely curious about human capabilities. It was the Kelshani matriarch Velnus who cut through the crowd with practiced efficiency. "Ambassador Chen, might I have a moment of your time?" Sarah recognized the species from her briefings. The Kelshani controlled 70% of galactic trade. Their goodwill meant economic survival for most civilizations. "Of course, matriarch," they moved to a private alcove. Velnus studied Sarah with ancient eyes that had evaluated countless deals across the galaxy. "You handled the Vrakon beautifully. Threatened them without making threats. Demonstrated strength without firing weapons. Very efficient. We simply made clear the costs of aggression." "Yes, but you did so in a way that makes other species wonder what else humans are capable of." Velnus clicked her beak thoughtfully. "That recording has circulated widely. You're now the most interesting new species in Council history." Sarah felt a chill despite the climate controls. "That wasn't our intention." Intentions rarely matter, only results. And the result is that thousands of civilizations are now reassessing humanity. Some see opportunity. Some see threat. "I see profit. I'm not sure I understand." Velnus projected a trade contract into the space between them. "The Kelshani Collective would like to establish an exclusive commercial partnership with Earth. We'll provide advanced technology, favorable trade rates, and political protection within the Council. In exchange, Earth agrees to use Kelshani services for all major transactions and provides us with priority access to human innovations." Sarah scanned the document. Unlike the Vrakon's insulting offer, this contract actually seemed fair. "Almost too fair. Why?" Sarah asked bluntly. "We're still just one species with 4 worlds. What makes us valuable enough for exclusive partnership with the galaxy's biggest trade power?" Velnus's translated laughter rippled through the alcove. "Because you're unpredictable, Ambassador. The galaxy has been stable for 10,000 years. Every species fits into known categories. Everyone knows their place. Then humans arrive, get classified as harmless, and within months demonstrate they're anything but. That unpredictability makes you potentially very valuable. Or very dangerous. Often the same thing. But here's what you don't yet understand about galactic politics. The Council's reclassification review isn't just academic. If they elevate Earth's threat rating, other species will use it as justification for preemptive actions. Economic sanctions, trade restrictions, in extreme cases, quarantine protocols. Sarah's pleasant mask slipped. "You're saying we'll be punished for defending ourselves?" "I'm saying the galaxy doesn't trust change. You've disrupted the established order. Species will respond to that disruption by trying to contain you before you become a real problem." Velnus gestured to the contract. "Unless you have powerful allies who can vouch for your peaceful intentions, while quietly ensuring others don't interfere with your development." "And the Kelshani would be those allies?" "What's the real cost?" "The cost is partnership. Genuine partnership. We provide resources and protection. You provide innovation and that delightful unpredictability. Together we both profit." Sarah studied the contract again, this time looking for the trap she knew must exist. But Kelshani contracts were famous for being exactly what they appeared to be. They didn't need deception when they could simply outmaneuver opponents with legitimate business practices. "I need to consult with my government." "Of course, you have one standard week before I make this offer to the Denari Confederation instead. They're less interesting than humans, but interesting enough." Velnus departed, leaving Sarah alone, with the most consequential decision humanity had faced since achieving faster-than-light travel. She returned to her quarters and composed another report for Secretary General Webb. This one was longer, more detailed, and included her personal assessment. Earth had avoided one trap only to find itself in a more complex maze. The galaxy had dismissed them as benign. Now it was paying attention. And attention, Sarah was learning, could be far more dangerous than dismissal. Meanwhile, in the Vrakon Empire's War Council chambers, Thexisol presented his analysis to the military leadership. Holographic displays showed human military history in disturbing detail. "The mammals are psychological warfare specialists," he explained. "They don't need to win battles. They just need to make occupation unbearable. Our analysts estimate that Holding Proxima Centauri B against human resistance would cost more resources annually than the planet would generate in a decade. War leader Krishna clicked her mandibles in frustration. We've never encountered a species that fights this way. Because most species recognize when they're beaten. Humans don't. They'll lose every battle and still consider themselves at war. It's irrational. It's effective, Krishna corrected. If word spreads that we backed down from Category 7 species, others will challenge our authority. Then we ensure word doesn't spread, Thexisol said carefully. We adjust our expansion plans to avoid human territories. We make public statements about respecting council protocols and territorial sovereignty. And we quietly begin developing countermeasures in case humanity ever does become a direct threat. You believe they will? Thexisol replayed Sarah's words about humans choosing peace after learning how terrible war could be. I believe they're a predator species pretending to be herbivores. The galaxy made the mistake of believing the pretense. We won't make that mistake again. The Council's Xenopsychology Division had never reclassified a species so quickly. Usually the process took years of observation and careful analysis. But humanity had forced their hand by demonstrating capabilities that contradicted every initial assessment. Dr. Zinthera, the lead xenopsychologist, was a mind-weaver, a species that could perceive emotional patterns across different biological systems. Her translucent body pulsed with colored lights that represented her current mental state. Right now, those lights flickered between analytical blue and confused purple. This is unprecedented, she told her research team. Humans actively suppress their aggressive tendencies through social conditioning. Not because they lack aggression, but because they have too much of it. Her assistant, a young researcher named Pell, studied the data streams. Their entire modern civilization is built on restraining their own nature? Exactly. Look at their legal systems, their educational structures, their entertainment media. Everything reinforces the idea that violence is the last resort. They've culturally engineered themselves toward peace. Then why does the Council consider that threatening? Zinthara's color shifted to warning orange. Because it means their peaceful behavior is a choice, not a limitation. And choices can change. She pulled up historical records from Earth's 20th century, wars that killed millions, weapons capable of rendering planets uninhabitable, conflicts that lasted generations because neither side would surrender. Category 7 species are benign because they evolved that way. They lack the biological or psychological framework for sustained aggression. But humans? Zinthara's colors deepened. Humans evolved as pursuit predators. They're biologically designed to never give up the chase. Then they developed intelligence and turned that persistence toward everything they do. Philosophy, science, art, war. What classification do you recommend? Zinthara was quiet for a long moment. I don't know. They don't fit any existing category. Too peaceful to be Category 1 or 2. Too dangerous to remain Category 7. We might need to create a new classification, entirely. Her report to the High Arbiter would change everything humanity had built in the galaxy. Ambassador, Chen received the summons 3 days later. High Arbiter Mellon wanted a private meeting before the official reclassification announcement. Sarah arrived at the designated conference chamber to find not just Meln, but also Matriarch Velnus and 3 other senior council members. This was not a casual conversation. Ambassador Chen, thank you for coming, Melon began. Her crystalline form refracted the room's light into sharp angles. We wanted to discuss the xenopsychology report before making any public statements. I appreciate the courtesy, High Arbiter. Earth is being reclassified as Category 3. Sarah felt her stomach drop. Category 3 meant potential threat requiring monitoring and restrictions. It meant human expansion would be limited. Trade agreements would include military oversight. Earth would spend decades under Council supervision. Based on what evidence? Sarah kept her voice steady. Meln projected Dr. Zinthara's full report. Sarah read it quickly, seeing her species dissected and analyzed like insects under glass. The conclusions were damning. Humans were aggressive persistence hunters with advanced intelligence and poor impulse control on evolutionary timescales. They developed civilization too quickly, achieving nuclear weapons before developing the wisdom to use them properly. Their current peace was maintained through constant effort, not natural temperament. This report makes us sound like monsters waiting to happen, Sarah said quietly. It makes you sound like a species in transition, Velnus interjected. Which is actually more accurate than monster. Mel nodded. The concern is not what humans are now, but what you might become under pressure. Your interaction with Ambassador Thexazole demonstrated that human restraint has limits. We were defending our territory. You were threatening total war rather than accept diplomatic resolution, Meln corrected. That's concerning behavior from a species so new to galactic politics. Sarah looked at each council member in turn. She saw fear poorly disguised as pragmatism. They'd invited humanity into their community expecting a grateful, harmless addition. Instead, they'd gotten something unpredictable, something that didn't play by rules they'd spent millennia establishing. What are our options? Sarah asked. You accept Category 3 status, Meln replied. That includes expansion limitations, military oversight, and regular psychological assessments of your leadership. Or, Velnus spoke again. Or Earth accepts protected status under a sponsor civilization. The sponsor guarantees human behavior to the Council and provides guidance on proper conduct within galactic society. In exchange, the sponsor gains certain economic privileges and Earth retains more autonomy than Category 3 would allow. You want to make humanity someone's client state, Sarah said bluntly. We want to prevent humanity from being quarantined, Velnus corrected. Category 3 is just the beginning. If humans demonstrate any aggressive expansion, any territorial conflicts, any military buildup, the Council will escalate to Category 2, then Category 1. Eventually, if you're perceived as enough of a threat, the Council will authorize containment protocols. That means your solar system gets surrounded by automated defense platforms. Nothing gets in or out without Council permission. Is that what you want for Earth? Sarah felt rage building behind her professional mask. They'd done nothing wrong. Refused one attempt at extortion. Defended their territory with words rather than weapons. And now the galaxy wanted to imprison them for it. The Kelshani Collective is willing to serve as Earth's sponsor, Velnus continued. We have sufficient influence to counter Category 3 classification and enough resources to ensure your continued development. The terms would be essentially the same as the trade partnership I offered earlier, with added political protection. And if we refuse? Choose to accept Category 3 instead? Meln answered. Then Earth's interaction with the galactic community becomes severely restricted. You'll find it very difficult to advance. Category 3. Civilizations rarely progress beyond that status. Most remain supervised for thousands of years until the Council decides they've proven themselves harmless. Or until they're forgotten entirely, added another Council member, a reptilian species Sarah didn't recognize. Category 3 is effectively probation. Indefinite probation. Sarah stood abruptly. I need to consult with my government. You have 48 standard hours, Meln said. After that, the Council votes on reclassification. With or without a sponsor, that vote will proceed. Sarah left the chamber feeling like she'd just been mugged. The galaxy had offered humanity membership in their community, then punished them for not being victims when someone tried to exploit them. Now they wanted Earth to choose between prison and patronage. She sent an encrypted burst transmission to Geneva, marked urgent priority. Then she did something she rarely allowed herself. She went to her quarters, sealed the door, and let the professional mask slip. Ambassador Sarah Chen, representative of Earth to the Galactic Council, put her head in her hands and tried not to scream. Back on Earth, the Security Council convened again. The mood was grimmer than before. Secretary General Webb displayed Melon's ultimatum on the main screen, while world leaders absorbed the implications. They're punishing us for winning, Premier Joe said flatly. We refuse to be exploited, so now we're a threat that needs to be controlled. The xenopsychology report isn't entirely wrong, Director Singh pointed out. We are aggressive by galactic standards. We do maintain peace through conscious effort, rather than natural temperament. That makes us unpredictable to species that evolved differently. So what do we do? Asked President Morrison of the Atlantic Federation. Accept this Kelshani sponsorship and become their junior partners? Or take Category 3 status and spend the next 1,000 years under supervision? Marcus Webb was quiet for a long moment. Then he pulled up a different display. Earth's current resources, manufacturing capacity, scientific institutions, population distribution across 4 worlds. The foundation of human civilization distilled into data. There's a third option, he said slowly. One that Ambassador Chen suggested in her transmission but didn't explicitly recommend because it's extremely risky. What option? Premier Joe leaned forward. We reject both offers. We demonstrate that humanity doesn't need the Council's approval or protection. We prove that we can exist in this galaxy on our own terms. The chamber erupted in protests. That's insane, Morrison said. We're one species against thousands. They'll contain us, restrict our trade, maybe even blockade our system. Probably, Marcus agreed. In the short term. But long term? The galaxy operates on precedent and power dynamics. Right now they see us as a problem to be managed. What if we show them we're too valuable to isolate and too costly to control? Director Singh's eyes gleamed with understanding. You want to make humanity indispensable. Exactly. The Kelshani weren't wrong. Humans are unpredictable, and unpredictability has value. Innovation. New perspectives. Solutions to problems the galaxy hasn't figured out in 10,000 years of stability. We offer that freely to species willing to trade fairly, and we make it very clear that restrictions and containment mean they lose access to human ingenuity. The council chamber had never been so full. Word of Earth's response had spread through diplomatic channels like wildfire through dry grass. Every major civilization sent representatives. Minor species who usually skipped sessions suddenly found reasons to attend. Even the reclusive architects who hadn't participated in council proceedings for 3 centuries sent an observer. Ambassador Sarah Chen stood in the center of the chamber, surrounded by thousands of eyes, sensors, and perception organs from species across the galaxy. The human section, usually empty except for her, now held a delegation from Earth. Director Singh, Premier Joe, 3 senior diplomats, and Admiral James Okoye, commander of Earth's small but growing defense fleet, wearing his full military uniform as a statement. Hi. Arbiter Meln's crystalline form reflected the chamber's tension and fractured light patterns. This session addresses Earth's classification, status, and their response to council recommendations. Ambassador Chen, you have declined both the Kelshani sponsorship and Category 3 designation. Please explain Earth's position. Sarah stepped forward. Her voice carried clearly through the translation systems. Earth appreciates the Council's concern for galactic stability. We understand that our species doesn't fit neatly into established categories. However, we reject the premise that this makes us a threat, requiring supervision or sponsorship. Murmurs rippled through the assembled delegates. The xenopsychology report is accurate in many ways, Sarah continued. Humans did evolve as persistent hunters. We do maintain peace through conscious choice rather than biological imperative. Our history includes terrible conflicts. All of this is true, but the report misses the most important aspect of human psychology. She projected new data into the chamber's central display. Not warfare statistics this time. Something else entirely. This is the Human Cultural Database. 3 million years of evolutionary history, 50,000 years of behavioral evidence, 5,000 years of recorded civilization. Every major human achievement in art, science, philosophy, and social development. We're making it freely available to the entire galactic community. The chamber erupted in confused chatter. Species demanded clarification. Others questioned the relevance. Mellon called for order. Ambassador, how does this address the classification issue? Because it shows what the xenopsychology report couldn't measure. Context. Yes, humans are capable of violence. But we're also capable of incredible compassion. We built hospitals before we built armies. We created music before we created weapons. We developed philosophy to understand why violence was wrong before we developed the technology to wage war efficiently. Sarah highlighted specific entries in the database. Medical advances shared freely between rival nations. International cooperation on scientific research. Humanitarian aid sent to populations humans had been fighting months earlier. Peace treaties that ended generations of conflict. The galaxy looks at human history and sees the wars. We look at the same history and see all the times we chose not to fight. Every peace treaty is humanity rejecting violence. Every act of mercy is us overcoming our aggressive instincts. Every international cooperation is us building something better than conflict. She paused, letting the data speak for itself. Earth requests Category 5 status. We acknowledge our defensive capabilities. We commit to peaceful expansion and diplomatic resolution of conflicts, but we will not accept supervision or sponsorship because we don't need them. We've been supervising ourselves for thousands of years. We're very good at it. Ambassador Thexusol rose from the Vricon section. Sarah had expected this. With respect, Ambassador Chen, self-supervision is exactly the concern. Humanity supervises itself right up until the moment you decide you don't need to. Your own history shows this pattern repeatedly. You're correct, Sarah admitted. Humans have failed at peace many times, but we've also succeeded more often than we've failed. And each failure taught us how to do better. That's what the galaxy doesn't seem to understand about us. We learn constantly, rapidly, sometimes painfully, but we learn. Director Singh stepped forward, adding her voice to Sarah's. The Council exists to maintain stability. We respect that goal. But stability without growth leads to stagnation. Earth offers the galaxy something it hasn't had in thousands of years. Fresh perspectives, new approaches to old problems. Innovation born from a species that hasn't spent millennia locked into established patterns. And what happens when those new approaches threaten existing power structures? The question came from a Denari representative, one of humanity's potential competitors for council influence. Premier Joe answered this time. Then those power structures need to demonstrate why they deserve to be maintained. Earth isn't interested in conquest or domination. We're interested in finding our place in a community of equals, but equals, not subjects, not clients, not problems to be managed. Matriarch Velnus rose from the Kilshani section. Sarah had wondered when she would speak. Earth rejected our sponsorship offer. That's their right. But I want the Council to understand why the Kilshani made that offer in the first place. Velnus projected commercial data across the chamber. In 3 months of observation, we've identified 17 human innovations that could revolutionize galactic commerce. 17. Most species contribute 2 or 3 valuable concepts across centuries of membership. Humans did it before they even understood how our economy works. She highlighted specific examples. A new approach to quantum computing that made calculations 40% more efficient. Medical techniques that worked across multiple biological systems. An art form that 36 species had already started imitating. Engineering solutions to problems the galaxy had considered solved. The Kilshani wanted exclusive partnership because we recognized value. Earth's independence doesn't change that value. It just means we'll have to compete for access like everyone else. Velnus's translated tone carried amusement, which is perfectly fair. Competition drives innovation. Earth just demonstrated that beautifully. High Arbiter Meln's form pulsed with indecision. The Council must balance innovation against security. Category 5 status implies trust that Earth has not yet earned. Then what would earn that trust? Admiral Okoye spoke for the first time, his deep voice cutting through the chamber. We've defended our territory without violence. We've shared valuable information freely. We've committed to peaceful expansion. What more does the Council require? Perfection? Because no species here can claim that. The architect observer stirred for the first time. Its form was difficult to perceive, existing partially in dimensions human eyes couldn't properly process. Its translated voice sounded like wind through ancient structures. The architects have observed this debate with interest. We remember when our own species joined the Council 14,000 years ago. We were classified based on what we were, not what we might become. That classification limited our development for 3 millennia. The Council meant well. They always mean well. But good intentions created a cage. Every delegate in the chamber focused on the architect. They rarely spoke, and when they did, their words carried weight earned through ages of perspective. Humanity asks to be judged on their choices, not their capacity. This is reasonable. Every species has the capacity for harm. The question is whether they choose harm when given alternatives. Earth has consistently chosen alternatives. Perhaps it is time the Council recognized that pattern instead of fearing the capacity beneath it. Silence filled the chamber. The architects had effectively endorsed humanity's position. That endorsement would influence hundreds of other species. Mellon consulted with other council leaders in a rapid exchange of private communications. Sarah watched the various factions calculate their positions. Some species saw opportunity in supporting Earth. Others saw threat. Most simply wanted to avoid making the wrong choice. Finally, Mellon spoke. The Council will vote on Earth's classification. Category 5 status requires a 2/3 majority. The alternative is Category 3 with standard restrictions. Delegates, cast your votes. The voting process was silent, conducted through quantum-secured channels. Sarah watched the holographic tally appear above Mellon's position. Numbers climbed steadily. 2,000 species voting on humanity's future. 63% in favor of Category 5, 7% short of the required threshold. Sarah felt her heart sink. They'd come so close. Now Earth would spend decades under restrictions, proving themselves to species that had already decided humans were dangerous. Then something unexpected happened. Matriarch Velnus stood again. The Kelshani Collective changes its vote to support Category 5 status for Earth. The numbers shifted. 68%. Ambassador Thexisol rose slowly. The entire chamber held its collective breath. The Vrakon Empire recognizes that humanity has demonstrated restraint when challenged. We support Category 5 classification. 71%. More species changed their votes. Not because they trusted humanity, Sarah realized, but because the major powers had made their positions clear. The political calculation had shifted. Supporting Earth was now the safer choice. When the final tally appeared, it showed 74% in favor. The Council grants Earth Category 5 status, Mellon announced. 4 years and 11 months after Earth received Category 5 status, Ambassador Sarah Chen stood on the observation deck of humanity's newest achievement. The Horizon Station orbited at the edge of the Sol system, a massive structure that served as both diplomatic hub and demonstration of human capability. She wasn't alone. Beside her stood representatives from 47 different civilizations, all of them witnessing the same event through the massive transparent barriers that separated them from space. A new human colony ship emerged from its construction bay, the 5th such vessel launched this year. Unlike the cramped transports that had carried the first colonists to Mars and Europa, this ship was enormous. It could carry 20,000 people and enough equipment to establish a fully functional settlement within months of arrival. More importantly, it incorporated technologies from 8 different galactic civilizations, adapted and improved by human engineers. Impressive, Matriarch Velnus commented. She'd become a regular visitor to Earth space over the past years. The Kelshani Human Trade Partnership had made both civilizations wealthier than anyone predicted. When you were first classified as Category 5, many species predicted you'd fail the review. Instead, you've colonized 6 new worlds, established trade agreements with 300 civilizations, and contributed more scientific innovations than some species manage in millennia. Sarah smiled slightly. We had good motivation. Fail the review and spend the next 1,000 years in a cage. That focused minds wonderfully. Motivation alone doesn't explain the success rate. Velnus gestured toward the departing colony ship. The galaxy has watched Earth very carefully. You know what we've learned? I'm sure you'll tell me. Humans are terrifying negotiators, not because you threaten or manipulate, because you actually listen. You find out what the other species needs, what they fear, what they hope for. Then you craft agreements that give them exactly what they want, while somehow also benefiting humanity. It's remarkable. Sarah thought back to the thousands of hours spent in negotiations over the past 5 years. Trade deals with the Kelshani, technology exchanges with the architects, cultural partnerships with species whose names she couldn't pronounce properly, defense cooperation agreements with civilizations that wanted humanity's tactical thinking without admitting they were afraid of their neighbors. We learned a long time ago that the best victories leave everyone feeling like they won, Sarah said. It's not manipulation. It's just recognizing that most conflicts come from misunderstanding what the other side actually wants. Across the observation deck, Ambassador Thexisol approached. The Vrakon ambassador had become an unlikely colleague over the years. Not exactly a friend, but a respectful rival who understood the value of stable relationships. Ambassador Chen, I trust you're prepared for tomorrow's council session? As prepared as anyone can be for a classification review. You needn't worry. The Vrakon Empire will support maintaining your Category 5 status. Thexisol's mandibles clicked in a pattern Sarah had learned to recognize as amusement. You've proven to be valuable trade partners. More importantly, you've proven my initial assessment correct. Which assessment was that? That humanity is a predator species pretending to be something gentler. But I've refined my understanding over these years. Humans aren't pretending. You simply understand that successful predators don't need to kill everything they encounter. Sometimes the best hunting strategy is cooperation. Sarah wasn't sure if that was a compliment or an insult, but she accepted it with grace. The Vrakon Empire has been a fair partner. We appreciate your support. After Thexazol departed, Director Singh joined Sarah at the observation window. She'd been promoted to Secretary General 6 months ago when Marcus Webb retired. The transition had been smooth, though Sarah missed Marcus's steady presence. "The final review reports are in," Singh said quietly. 62 civilizations submitted formal assessments. 59 recommend maintaining Category 5. 2 recommend upgrade to Category 4. 1 recommends downgrade to Category 6. Sarah raised an eyebrow. Upgrade? Who recommended that? The architects. They claim humanity has demonstrated advancement beyond Category 5 parameters. Specifically, they cite our conflict resolution capabilities and innovation rate. And the downgrade? The Denari Confederation. They've been threatened by our commercial success. Their formal complaint is that we're too aggressive in trade negotiations, which really means we're offering better deals than they can match. Sarah nodded. Politics as usual. What about the Xenopsychology Division? Dr. Zinthara's opinion carries significant weight. Singh pulled up a data tablet. Her report is interesting. She admits the initial assessment was incomplete. Quote, "Humanity's aggressive tendencies are balanced by equally powerful cooperative instincts. Their capacity for violence exists alongside exceptional capacity for empathy. This duality makes them neither purely benign nor purely dangerous, but rather adaptable to circumstances. Such adaptability is not a flaw to be corrected, but a feature to be respected." She's recommending Category 5 maintenance. Emphatically, she's also recommending the Council develop a new classification system that accounts for adaptive species, says the current categories are too rigid for civilizations like humanity. Sarah felt genuine surprise. The Mindweaver who'd initially flagged humans as concerning now advocated for changing the entire classification framework to accommodate them. The galaxy is learning, Sarah mused. Slowly, but it's learning. The next day, the council chamber filled once again. This time, the atmosphere was different. Less tense. More curious. Humanity's review had become one of the most closely watched proceedings in recent council history. High Arbiter Mellon called the session to order. This council convenes to review Earth's Category 5 classification. The review period has concluded. We will hear from relevant parties before proceeding to vote. Dr. Zinthara presented first, her bioluminescent colors shifting through analytical patterns as she displayed 5 years of behavioral data. Human expansion had been peaceful. Trade practices were aggressive but fair. Conflicts with other species were resolved through negotiation in every instance except 2. And those exceptions involved defensive actions against pirates operating outside council jurisdiction. Humanity has exceeded all expectations for Category 5 conduct, Zinthara concluded. I recommend not only maintaining their status but removing the conditional review requirement. They've proven themselves. Ambassador Thexazol spoke next, offering the Vrakon perspective. Earth has become a significant commercial and diplomatic presence in the galaxy. They negotiate from positions of strength but show restraint in exercising that strength. This is the behavior we want from Category 5 civilizations. Matriarch Velnus added the Kelshani assessment. From a commercial standpoint, humanity has revitalized galactic trade. Their innovations have created entirely new markets. Their diplomatic efforts have resolved trade disputes that had been stagnant for decades. Earth is good for business, which means Earth is good for galactic stability. The architect observer spoke last. The architects have observed humanity with great interest. We recommend upgrading Earth to Category 4. Not because they pose increased threat, but because they have demonstrated capabilities that exceed their current classification. Humans have contributed more to galactic civilization in 5 years than many Category 4 species manage in centuries. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Category 4 meant recognition as an advanced civilization, one of the galaxy's significant powers. It came with expanded rights but also increased responsibilities. High Arbiter Mellon addressed Sarah directly. Ambassador Chen, how does Earth respond to the architect recommendation? Sarah had prepared for many scenarios. This wasn't one of them. Upgrade to Category 4. It was more than they'd hoped for. But it also meant scrutiny would intensify. Earth would be expected to participate in Council security operations, contribute to galactic infrastructure, and take positions on conflicts between other species. She thought about humanity's journey. From dismissed as benign to feared as dangerous to now recognized as significant. Every step had been a challenge. Every achievement hard-won. Earth is honored by the architect recommendation, Sarah said carefully. However, we believe Category 5 status remains appropriate. We're still learning to navigate galactic politics, still understanding our place in this community. We've proven we can handle Category 5 responsibilities. We'd like more time before accepting the additional obligations of Category 4. Melon's crystalline form pulsed with what might have been approval. Wisdom and restraint. The Council appreciates your candor, Ambassador. The vote proceeded quickly. The result was overwhelming. 91% in favor of maintaining Category 5 status with the conditional review requirement removed. Earth was officially recognized as a stable, trustworthy civilization. After the session concluded, Sarah found herself surrounded by well-wishers and opportunists. Species that had ignored humanity 5 years ago now wanted partnerships. Civilizations that had bet against human success now hastened to repair relationships. But it was the architect observer who sought her out privately, its dimensionally complex form somehow conveying satisfaction.